New York, Brooklyn docks, cold port fog settles on the rusty shipping containers. The smell of fuel oil, rotting wood, and salt water. Heavy crates creak under the weight of the dampness. You are an associate, a nobody, a street-level pawn, standing in the freezing wind, while men in expensive wool suits drink hot espresso in warm offices. In your hands is a heavy crowbar, the metal burning your palms with the cold. Your task today is simple. Move a truck with unregistered cargo through 2 police cordons. If you get caught, the system won't save you. You don't have an Italian syndicate lawyer. You have no rights. You are expendable material, gathering crumbs from the master's table in the hope that one day you'll be noticed. But today the cargo is special. In the back aren't just crates of silk. There are valuable documents that the freedom of the syndicate's top brass depends on. To a tired port loader walking past, you are just another aggressive street hoodlum blocking the way. Ordinary citizens lower their eyes, hoping you won't notice them, never suspecting that you are more afraid of the system than they are of you. You get behind the wheel, the cold faux leather of the seat. The key turns with a squeak. The wipers smear dirt across the windshield. Suddenly, the flashing lights of a police patrol blink at the intersection. They signal you to pull over. You have fractions of a second. If you stop, you lose the cargo, but you might get off with a light sentence. If you hit the gas, you risk a decade behind bars. But if you break through, the family will appreciate your loyalty. What will you choose? Pause the video and write in the comments. Surrender to the cops or hit the gas. The associate stage is street-level work without a single guarantee. These people performed the syndicate's dirtiest jobs, debt collection and illegal transport. They had no family protection, kicked the lion's share of profits upstairs, and could risk their freedom for decades just waiting for a chance to become a made man. Little Italy. Private restaurant detective Jimmy steps out of the shadows of a massive mahogany bar. His beige trench coat rustles, brushing against the brass handrails. He slowly runs a finger across the polished countertop, wiping away invisible dust. On his shoulder, a snail in a mini-coat rhythmically sways its horns, studying gold cufflinks left on the table. You hit the gas, Jimmy says hollowly, without looking up. You broke through the cordon. You earned respect. But respect in this world is a collar with spikes on the inside. Now you are a soldier, a made man, a windowless room, the smell of expensive cologne and roasted garlic from the closed kitchen. Before you sit elderly men with heavy gazes, the initiation ritual. A pin pricks your finger. A burning picture of a saint turns to ash in your palm. You swear that your soul will burn just like that if you betray the family. Omerta. From this moment on, your life does not belong to you. You cannot refuse an order. You apply force when told to, befriend who they tell you to, and kick a percentage of every deal upstairs. You receive an order, resolve a problem with a competitor from another family. This will disrupt the fragile peace, but the order is given by your capo right to your face. For the residents of the neighborhood, you are no longer a street punk. When you walk into a bar, the patrons at the next tables involuntarily lower their voices. They see you as an unavoidable physical threat. You have become the very nightmare mothers use to scare disobedient children. At night you wait by his house. The engine is off. Your hands sweat on the cold plastic of the steering wheel. You see the target leave his house, but he is not alone. With him is his old mother. If you carry out the order now, Ignoring the witnesses, you prove your loyalty, but forever erase the last shreds of your humanity. If you retreat into the shadows and failed the mission, the Capo might decide you are weak. What will you choose? Right? Carry out the order or retreat into the shadows. The status of a soldier or made man is a psychological point of no return. Achieving this rank required 100% Italian descent and committing a serious crime for the family, cutting off paths back to a normal life. Soldiers formed the syndicate's enforcer backbone, controlling neighborhoods, managing shadow businesses, and were bound by the oath of Omerta, the law of silence. Palermo. Social Club Jimmy sits in a deep leather chair, slowly stirring dark espresso with a small spoon. The porcelain softly clanks. The snail crawls across a gold ashtray with no trace of ash, moving to the edge of the table and closely watching thick envelopes. The hierarchy breaks those standing in the middle. The detective says dryly, "You did the dirty work, and here is your reward." Jimmy pulls a metal lighter from his trench coat pocket. A sharp click cuts through the silence of the bar, illuminating his tired face with a warm flame. He squints, looking straight at you through the haze. "By the way, you've climbed pretty high. Most break while still on the streets. If you're still here and want to survive this investigation, drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, because the YouTube algorithms, just like the Cosa Nostra, love silence. If you don't leave a trace, they will hide this archive from you forever." Done. Then let's move on. You are a Caporegium, a capo, the quiet hum of billiard balls, the thick aroma of strong coffee and steam from expensive pasta. Now you have your own crew. Soldiers bring you thick envelopes of cash. You count them, your fingers stained with printing ink from fresh bills. You no longer stand in the rain. You give the orders, but the tension tightens your jaw. You have to pass a strict percentage to the boss, and you must keep your soldiers in fear so they don't steal. To the small businesses in your neighborhood, you are the unofficial mayor. The owner of the laundromat, with trembling hands, pours you the best espresso, absolutely free, with a smile. Society considers you a respectable man who solves neighborhood problems. But no one sees the panicked paranoia in your eyes when you count other people's coins at night. One evening, you notice that the envelope from your best friend, who now works for you, is too thin. He has started holding out money. The punishment for hiding money from the family is always severe. If you cover for your friend and pay the boss from your personal savings, you risk everything if the deception is exposed. If you hand him over to the top brass, you forever secure your reputation as a ruthless Caporegime, but single-handedly destroy the man who once saved your life. Choose, turn in your friend or cover the debt. The Caporeg rank is the key management link, squeezed between the top brass and the street. The Capo led a crew of soldiers and acted as a brutal financial manager. The boss never got his own hands dirty. He passed orders to the Capo, who assigned tasks downward. A Capo was obligated to kick up envelopes of profit weekly. If a crew didn't bring in money or drew police attention, the Capo was precisely the one to answer to the higher-up suburban mansion. Security basement Jimmy stands by a wall lined with soundproofing foam. The room hums with servers and anti-wiretapping devices. He runs his hand over the cold wires of a radio. The Snail sits on a microphone listening to white noise. Loyalty is tested, not when you split the money. Jimmy turns to you. Loyalty is tested when someone has to sit in a cage. You are the underboss, or consigliere, the boss's second in command. The luxury of the mansion gives way to paranoia. Silk ties, expensive watches, heavy gold rings. But the walls are closing in. The feds are tapping every phone. You are the buffer. Your sole purpose is to make sure no order from the boss is ever recorded or passed directly. The Department of Justice is tightening the noose. Arrest warrants sit on the table. An old deal has surfaced that leads straight to the dawn. In the eyes of federal judges and the city elite, you look like a legitimate investor in an impeccable wool suit. Ordinary citizens reading the newspapers think you are a major philanthropist, and only the waiters at the private club break into a cold sweat, realizing that one wrong word from you could bury an empire. In the evening, the dark library smells of old leather and candle wax. The Don looks at you. He says nothing directly, but his silence speaks louder than words. He expects you to take the fall. A pawn protects the king. You have a choice. You can take the blame, get 20 years in prison, and forever etch your name into the legends of Omerta, knowing your real family is provided for. Or you can walk out the back door with a briefcase full of blackmail. Lie down on the floor of a black FBI car under the Witness Protection Program and erase your identity forever. What will you choose? Go to prison or turn informant? The Underboss always acts as the chief deputy, while the consigliere is a trusted advisor without a crew of their own. They serve as a psychological and legal buffer between the boss and the streets. The main goal of these individuals is to isolate the leader from direct evidence. If FBI agents launch an investigation, it's often the right-hand man who takes the hit, allowing the family to continue operating in the shadows. Manhattan, penthouse, top floor. Jimmy looks out the panoramic window at nighttime New York. City lights reflect in the glass, blending with the darkness of the room. The Snail slowly crawls along the handle of a massive safe. The top of the food chain, the detective whispers. A place where the air is so thin it's impossible to breathe. You are the boss, the Don. Silence. Your penthouse has perfect soundproofing. Thick carpets muffle footsteps. No one speaks to you without permission. No one looks you directly in the eye. But every rustle makes your heart skip a beat. You don't trust your security because they know your roots. You don't trust your chef. You don't trust your underboss because he knows how to take your place. The feds monitor the building 24 hours a day. To millions of ordinary citizens, you don't even exist. You are an urban myth, a translucent ghost from the pages of crime tabloids. People don't realize your invisible hand daily dictates the prices of building materials, trash collection, and the groceries they buy. But the paradox is that a regular passerby on the street has more freedom than you. Information reaches you. One of the capos is gathering men for a mutiny. There is no hard evidence, only whispers in alleyways. The smell of betrayal hangs in the air like static electricity. If you strike first without proof, other captains might get scared and actually rebel out of fear. If you wait for direct evidence, you might wake up with a noose around your neck. The final crossroads. Strike first or wait for proof. The boss, or the Don, is absolute but destructively isolated power. Bosses, like Carlo Gambino or Vincent Gigante, ran shadow empires worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Yet their lives turned into round-the-clock paranoia. The boss made strategic decisions on alliances and removing competitors. But his status made him the primary target, not only for federal agents, but also for his own ambitious subordinates, looking to take the throne. Jimmy's archive. Jimmy opens the heavy metal door of the vault. The Snail is already waiting for him on a stack of criminal case files, lit by a cold fluorescent lamp. The street pawns situation. The foot in the door technique. In social psychology, this phenomenon explains the gradual involvement of a person into a criminal system. Nobody asks an associate to murder someone on the first day. First, they just ask him to transport some boxes. A small, insignificant concession breaks the psychological barrier of refusal. Once a person agrees to a minor criminal favor, their brain subconsciously alters their self-perception, justifying the act. The next request will be bigger, but it's impossible to refuse, since their identity has already accepted the new rules of the game. This works everywhere, from minor office violations to pyramid schemes and criminal syndicates. If someone asks you to just turn a blind eye to a detail, know that your door has already been cracked open. Google foot in the door technique. Social compliance. The initiation situation. De-individuation of personality. Burning a saint's image on the palm and reciting an oath. A soldier undergoes a ritual aimed at completely erasing his individual self. In psychology, de-individuation is the loss of self-awareness and personal responsibility in group settings. The soldier sheds moral responsibility, shifting it onto the syndicate's hierarchy. In this state, a person can do things they would never dare do alone because their inner critic is shut off. He is no longer Johnny or Tony. He is an instrument of the family. The exact same thing happens in aggressive corporate cultures, where employees lose empathy to meet sales quotas. Google de-individuation, crowd psychology. Philip Zimbardo. The captain's situation. The structural pressure effect, or middle management stress. A Capo regime is caught between a rock and a hard place. Roger Fritz proved in his management studies that middle managers experience the highest level of psychological stress in any hierarchy. The capo must unquestionably transmit the boss's aggression downwards while collecting money, and simultaneously contain the anger of his soldiers, whom he is skimming from for the kick-up. This constant compromise between loyalty to the leader and preserving his crew leads to chronic paranoia. When he must punish a friend for stealing, the captain isn't choosing between friendship and money, but between his own life and his friend's life. Google middle management, stress, sociology structure. The informant's situation. Pluralistic ignorance, and Omerta. Omerta is not built on respect, but on the phenomenon of pluralistic ignorance, where every group member secretly doubts or disagrees with the rules, but remains certain that everyone else supports them. Every mafioso secretly fears going to prison and is ready to make a deal, but because no one voices this out of fear of death, the illusion of universal loyalty persists. The moment one person agrees to become an informant and shatters the facade, the system instantly collapses, and the rest flee to the FBI en masse, realizing the unbreakable brotherhood never truly existed. Google pluralistic ignorance group. Silence. The boss's situation. The dictator's dilemma. At the top of the food chain rules absolute fear. The dictator's dilemma theory asserts that the more power a leader concentrates in their hands, the less truthful information they receive from subordinates. The boss's inner circle tells him only what he wants to hear in order to survive. As a result, the leader ends up in an information vacuum. Any whisper is deemed a conspiracy, and trust becomes physically impossible leading to preemptive purges. Absolute power doesn't grant freedom. It builds a solitary confinement cell with gold-lined walls, where paranoia becomes the only advisor. Google Dictator's Dilemma, Power and Paranoia.
Author's commentary: the foot in the door technique. You think the mafia is somewhere far away, in 20th century New York. But think about your own life. And paid overtime at work for 15 minutes. Then half an hour. Then a call from your boss on your day off. And suddenly you're doing the work of two people, afraid to say no, because you've already agreed to the new rules. It's the exact same system. The individuation. How many times have you agreed with the crowd or stayed silent on an injustice? Just because everyone else is doing it, we hide behind corporate rules, orders, and laws, forgetting that personal responsibility for an act always lies with the individual. Middle management stress: you're a capo if you have both a boss and subordinates. You get hit over the head from above and hear muffled discontent from below. Your job is to please the system without betraying your team. And maintaining this balance drives people crazy every single day. Pluralistic ignorance. The fear of standing out. We all sit silently in boring meetings, thinking everyone else is interested. We endure stupid rules, certain that everyone around us agrees with them. The minute someone raises their voice, it turns out everyone thought the exact same thing but was too afraid to speak up. And the dictator's dilemma. When you achieve absolute control over your family, your business, or your social circles, you end up alone. People start lying to you so they don't upset you. Control kills sincerity. Escaping the mafia is almost impossible. But escaping your mental prison is a matter of one right decision. Look around you. Whose orders are you following today? And to whom are you handing over your life in an envelope? The link to our Discord server is always waiting for you on the main channel page. YouTube doesn't like links in the description. Subscribe, check out the community tab, and make the right choice. This was the Your Life as channel and Detective Jimmy. See you in the shadows.